Hey there, ready to get your learn on?
I am.
We're doing a deep dive into Bitcoin today.
Okay.
Not just the what, but the why that makes it so fascinating.
Yeah,
Can it?
absolutely. It's a real rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And we've got some really intriguing sources to unpack.
We do, we do.
Yeah.
Okay, so the term that keeps popping up everywhere is decentralized.
Right.
What does that even mean when we're talking about money?
Yeah.
What's the big deal?
So imagine a world
Yeah.
where you don't need a bank or a credit card company to move your money around.
Okay.
That's the core of what Bitcoin is trying to do.
Okay.
Think of it like
Yeah.
sending a message directly to someone.
Okay.
You don't need a postal service or an email provider in between.
So it's like a direct line for cash.
Exactly.
And it seems like people are actually using it that way. Like,
One source mentioned tipping street musicians with Bitcoin,
wow. Yeah.
even buying stuff at cafes.
yeah.
Like
This isn't just theoretical.
this is actually happening.
Wow.
And, for the nearly 2 billion people globally
Wow.
who don't have access to traditional banks,
Yeah.
that's huge. We're talking about potentially bringing a quarter of the world
Wow.
into a new financial system.
25%. That puts it into perspective.
Yeah.
That's a game changer. But
It is.
the sources also mentioned that Bitcoin transactions are irreversible.
Right.
Isn't that a bit risky?
It is. It's a trade-off.
Like, what if you make a mistake or something?
Well, so with Bitcoin, you are your own bank.
Okay.
You're holding your own private keys, which is great for control,
Right.
but it also means you're responsible for their security.
Right.
Lose your keys, you lose your Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's like losing a physical wallet full of cash.
Ouch. Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of losing things,
Yeah.
one source really caught my eye.
Right.
The story of that massive Bitcoin exchange, Mt. Gox,
Right.
that collapsed.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's got to be a cautionary tale.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
It shows that while Bitcoin itself might be secure,
Right.
the platforms you use might not be.
Right.
It all comes back to those private keys.
Okay.
Think of them like the combination to your digital vault.
Okay.
If someone gets hold of them, they can access your funds,
Gotcha.
regardless of how secure the network is.
Right. So understanding the tech is key.
Yes.
Especially this blockchain thing.
Blockchain.
Right. The blockchain.
Yeah.
Everyone keeps mentioning it.
Right.
But what actually is it?
Yeah.
More importantly, how does it work with those private keys?
Okay, so think of the blockchain as a giant public ledger,
Okay.
a record of every single Bitcoin transaction ever made.
Okay.
It's transparent.
Right.
Everyone on the network can see it.
Okay.
But here's the clever part.
Yeah.
Instead of using your name and your details,
Right.
transactions are linked to those unique private keys.
Okay.
So only the person with the right key can unlock and view the details.
So everyone knows a transaction happened, but not necessarily who sent or received the Bitcoin.
Exactly. It's transparency and anonymity intertwined.
That's pretty ingenious.
It is clever, yeah.
But how do these transactions even happen in the first place?
Right.
The source material mentions something about mining.
Yes.
Surely it's not as simple as digging it up in your backyard, right?
Quite. Not quite.
Okay.
Bitcoin mining is more of a global competition
Okay.
to solve incredibly complex math problems.
Okay.
Imagine like a massive, ever-changing Sudoku puzzle.
Okay.
Whoever solves it first
Yeah.
gets rewarded with newly created Bitcoins.
So it's more like a digital treasure hunt then.
Yeah, kinda.
And the more people mining, the harder it gets.
You got it.
Okay.
These miners are crucial because they're using their computing power
Yeah.
to verify transactions and secure the network.
Right.
And the reward is an incentive to keep doing it.
Right.
But it all feeds back into that decentralized idea.
Yeah.
No single entity controls it.
That makes sense. We've covered a lot here, decentralized networks.
We have,
Digital treasure hunts.
yeah,
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
it is.
And then there's this whole other layer
Yeah.
with this mysterious creator, Satoshi Nakamoto.
Yes, Satoshi. Now there's a story for you.
It's like Satoshi Nakamoto dropped this bombshell on the world and then just like vanished into thin air.
It's true. They published the Bitcoin white paper back in 2008.
Yeah.
And then, poof, gone a couple years later.
Yeah.
To this day,
Yeah.
no one knows for sure who they are.
Right. It could be.
One person.
Yeah.
A group of people.
Yeah.
Some even joke it's an AI.
Right. Like, who knows? Maybe we'll find out at the next Bitcoin halving.
Right.
Satoshi emerges from the shadows like, it's time for the next clue.
I'm back.
But mystery aside,
Right.
The system itself seems designed to mimic gold in some ways, right?
Absolutely. People call Bitcoin digital gold for a reason. Like gold, there's a limited supply built right into the code. Only 21 million Bitcoins will ever exist.
So that scarcity is intentional.
Yes,
Just like we can only mine so much gold from the earth.
exactly. And even the mining process gets tougher over time.
Right?
Remember how the,
Sure.
the reward for those math problems gets cut in half every 4 years?
Yeah.
That's designed to control the rate of new Bitcoins coming into circulation.
Right. So eventually, all those 21 million will be out there.
Right.
Like a gold rush ending when there's nothing left to find.
Yeah,
Satoshi really thought this through, but
they did.
why all the parallels to gold in the first place?
It comes back to that store of value.
Okay.
Just like gold has historically been seen as a hedge against inflation,
Right.
Bitcoin's finite supply aims to do the same,
Yeah.
holding its value,
Yeah.
even when traditional currencies might falter.
And since you're essentially your own bank with Bitcoin,
Right.
it takes that control away from governments and central banks, which some would say is the whole point, right?
Right. Absolutely. It's about individual sovereignty over your finances.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
it also highlights where the tension comes in.
Right.
Not everyone's thrilled about this idea.
Yeah, I imagine governments aren't exactly throwing parties for Bitcoin.
Right.
They like having control over their currencies, don't they?
It challenges their traditional role,
Mm-hmm.
particularly when it comes to things like taxation
Right.
and tracking the flow of money.
And let's be real.
Yeah,
There's always the question of illicit activity.
of course.
Couldn't something like Bitcoin be used for all sorts of shady stuff?
Yeah,
Money laundering,
yeah.
funding illegal operations, that sort of thing.
It's a valid concern, and it's important to acknowledge that any currency, including Bitcoin, can be used for good or bad.
Right.
But here's the thing. Unlike cash,
Yeah.
Bitcoin isn't completely untraceable.
Right, because of that whole blockchain transparency thing. So it's not quite the anonymous free-for-all some people make it out to be.
Exactly. Law enforcement is getting savvier by the day with blockchain analysis, tracing transactions even when they're deliberately obscured.
Wow.
And as Bitcoin becomes more mainstream,
Right.
expect to see even more regulation.
That makes sense. The more widely it's used,
Yeah.
the more attention it'll get from regulators.
Exactly.
So we've got this technology that challenges how we think about money,
Yeah,
security, even global power.
it's true.
Where does it go from here?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
And the answer might lie beyond Bitcoin itself.
Okay.
Many believe it's just the beginning,
Right.
that the real revolution is in blockchain technology more broadly.
So taking the principles behind Bitcoin's public ledger
Right.
and applying them elsewhere,
Exactly.
what would that even look like in practice?
So imagine secure voting systems where every vote is recorded transparently and immutably on the blockchain,
Okay.
making fraud near impossible.
Wow.
Or supply chains tracked from origin to consumer,
Right.
ensuring transparency and accountability at every step. We could even see digital identity verification systems powered by the blockchain,
Right.
giving individuals more control over their personal data.
It's like taking this concept of a secure, transparent record-keeping system
Yes.
and applying it to,
Yeah.
oh, almost anything.
Precisely. And the exciting thing is, this
Yeah.
isn't just some distant future we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're already seeing companies and even governments exploring blockchain solutions in healthcare,
Wow.
logistics,
You're right.
you name it.
So Bitcoin might just be the first domino to fall in a much larger technological shift.
It very well could be.
But before we go full sci-fi on this, let's
Right.
bring it back down to earth for a moment.
Yeah.
What does all this mean for the average person right now?
That's the key question, isn't it?
It is. Give us the rundown. So we've talked about all these big ideas,
Yeah.
but how does this actually trickle down to everyday life?
Well, for starters,
Yeah.
we're already seeing Bitcoin become more integrated into how we pay for things.
Yeah.
More and more payment processors are adopting it,
Right.
which means you can use Bitcoin for like everyday purchases,
Right.
like groceries, or even that morning coffee.
It's becoming almost like normal.
Yeah.
I remember when it seemed like something only like tech people talked about.
Right.
And now it's like, oh, you take Bitcoin here. Cool.
Exactly. And as adoption grows, we can expect to see that cool factor kind of wear off.
Yeah.
And it just becomes commonplace.
Right.
But the really profound impact could be in countries with unstable economies
Yeah.
or limited banking infrastructure.
The sources painted a pretty compelling picture of that. Like
Yeah,
Bitcoin being a tool for financial empowerment in those areas.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Think about places with hyperinflation,
Right.
where traditional currencies can become almost worthless overnight.
Yeah.
Bitcoin offers a way to kind of preserve wealth,
Okay.
a hedge against that kind of uncertainty.
So it's like a safety net when the systems you're used to fail.
In a way, yeah. And for people without access to banks, it's a way to participate in the global economy,
Right.
send and receive money without relying on intermediaries that they might not even have available to them.
Right.
It's about leveling the playing field.
It's amazing to think that something born online could have such a tangible impact on people's lives.
It is. It is.
But we
Yeah.
have to acknowledge the flip side,
Of
right?
course, yeah.
All the risks we talked about,
Right.
Mt. Gox, the importance of those private keys.
It's crucial for anyone considering Bitcoin to understand that it's still a relatively new and volatile technology.
Right.
Do your research, understand the risks, and invest responsibly, just like with any financial decision.
Solid advice.
Yeah,
It feels like we're at this turning point, like we're watching something huge unfold right before our eyes.
I agree.
The future of money, security, even global power dynamics, it's all in flux.
Yeah, like with any major technological shift, there will be bumps along the way.
Right.
But the potential impact of Bitcoin and blockchain technology more broadly is undeniable.
It's a fascinating time to be paying attention.
Absolutely, for sure.
That's for sure. It's been quite a journey.
It has.
From magic internet money to real-world implications
Right.
and all the complexities in between.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, like, if this is where we are now,
Right.
just imagine what the future holds.
Yeah.
What would a world truly powered by decentralized systems look like? What will we use this technology to build?
That is a question I'm going to be pondering for a while. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Bitcoin.
My pleasure.
Until next time, keep those brains engaged and stay curious.